Let's talk about what's in this book, this 70E book. Chapter 1 is the reason we're here today. Chapter 1 is the reason y'all came. Chapter 1's got the cool stuff we're not all doing yet, right? Chapter is why these two young guys who work for us up here have a job. They're some of our electrical engineers. Chapter 1 talks about qualified versus unqualified. Qualified versus unqualified. Everyone in your facility doing electrical work has to be qualified to do it. Training. You have to train them to be qualified. Now, we'll talk about training again, but no outside training company can qualify your people. Only the employer is allowed to do that by OSHA. A training company can provide the tools, can provide the training that they would need to be considered qualified, but training alone doesn't do it. We'll talk more about that in a second. Unqualified people need trained. Unqualified people are people that are going to be in the area while maintenance people are performing their electrical work. Maybe it's a supervisor or something like that. These supervisors are also flammable and are also good conductors, so even supervision has to be trained to stay out of this stuff. Chapter 1 talks about electrical safety programs. Everybody's got to have one. If OSHA walks in, they're going to ask you for that electrical safety program. They want to see it in writing. They want to see everyone that they're doing electrical work has access to it. You can hire a company like mine to write this for you, but I'm not a very good salesperson. Here's another way to do it. Y'all got the internet? I'm from Greene County, Indiana. We're fixing to get it down there pretty soon. They say it's pretty cool. You can hook one of them Google machines up there on that internet and Google electrical safety program. And what you'll find is a lot of companies have theirs online. You'll find that a lot of universities, Department of Energy, a lot of military locations, hospitals, Fortune 500 companies have theirs online. I'm not saying go there and plagiarize their, say go there and steal. No, you can go there and get an idea. You can't actually steal somebody else's because it's got to fit your needs. But maybe you're having trouble writing the section in yours on rubber gloves, insulated rubber gloves. Well, maybe there's a paragraph there from some place that's just perfect. Borrow that, or a chart, or a graph, or something. We actually have them that we loan out. Names have been removed to protect the innocent, but we'll show you samples of what people have. One of the most important things when you write your electrical safety program is keep it short and keep it applicable and practical, because every step going through 70E has to be done with one thing in mind, not compliance. We don't care about compliance. We care about preventing injuries. If we do that, compliance will fall into place. If you write a 300-page electrical safety program, me and Bubba in the maintenance department ain't going to read it. Okay? We're not going to read it. You got to keep it short and sweet and practical. I've seen sometimes where people actually copy page after page out of the OSHA book and out of the 70E book and just paste it in and make a policy. Don't do that. Don't do that. No one will read it. Keep it short. You can keep these things under 20 pages. They don't have to be and don't let your attorney write it. If your attorney has to write it, you write a book report on it. And that's what the rest of us will read. All right? Will that work? Chapter 1 covers hazard analysis for shock and flash, and tells you how to do an arc flash analysis and what people are looking for and different things like that. Talks about lockout, tagout, that verification isolation that my friend talked about is in there. Energized electrical work permits are in Chapter 1. Energized electrical work permits is a permit that, let's say you got Bubba, the electrician, out there on the floor, and he's doing some troubleshooting, which is fine. He can do that live. But now he's discovered that this relay right here needs replaced. Now, since 1984, we've replaced that relay live. Okay, we've actually replaced it live. Well, now we got to justify that. Okay, to justify it, he's going to have an energized work permit. He doesn't need the permit, or she doesn't need the permit for the troubleshooting, only for the repair. There's an exemption for troubleshooting on energized work permits. You don't need one. Otherwise, maintenance people have to get one every 10 minutes, right? You just need it for repair. So what it does is, you know, us folks in maintenance, we tend to be risk takers. We're kind of cowboys out there, right? There's a maintenance guy smiling back there. I can tell he's from maintenance department. And, but we're bringing in donuts later. Don't worry about it. We'll be okay. What it does is it takes the decision out of our hands and puts it in the hands of adults. And lets, you know, because what happens to get one of these permits, our boss is going to have to sign it. Safety department's going to have to sign it. I'm going to have to sign it. Chances are somebody's going to say, this doesn't have to be done live. Let's shut this thing off and do it, you know, de-energized. So that's the idea behind energized work permits. Takes the decision out of our hands because we got donuts and coffee to be dealing with, right? Approach batteries and PPE are covered in Chapter 1. Chapter 2 is 3.5 pages long, and it's written for the maintenance people. Talks about keeping all the equipment in a good working order. Okay? All maintenance people on the planet ought to read these 3.5 pages. Things like if you knock a big hole in the side of an electrical panel, you have to cover that hole. You can't just leave it open and let things fall in the box. And duct tape is not a good cover. Okay. Things like that. Cover some cool stuff on extension cords. Chapter 3 is for special equipment. Lasers, battery rooms, that kind of stuff. There's also a special section on R&D facilities. There seems to be a lot of R&D facilities in the Indianapolis area and central Indiana. And Article 350 covers those. What they really figured out was last time this 70E came out was that there's a lot of scientists with multiple PhDs in laboratories that 70E just doesn't apply to, you know, so we need to come up with a special section for them. Culture change. You know, I told you what it was like when I started working out in the plant. See if this sounds familiar to you. Have you ever walked up to some electrician or maintenance person with 70E book in hand and said, we got to start doing this now? And they said something like, you're nuts. I've been doing this for 30 years and I'm not dead yet and I don't need to do this stuff. That's a pretty common thing. Maybe we said it ourselves. It's a pretty common thing. And there's a lot of good people out there that don't mean any harm. And they say that sort of stuff all the time. And I got one word for them or a couple words for them. They're wrong. They're wrong. I don't care if you've been an electrician for 30 years and you've been zapped a bunch, but you don't need any of this stuff. You don't need this training. You don't need this FR clothing. You don't need that. You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. I can prove you're wrong. I can do it as often as you like. You give me a number, and I can do it. And I can do it quickly, in public, or however you want it done, but you're wrong. And if your idea or their idea is to fight 70E, oh, you missed it. Time to fight that was about 8 or 10 years ago. Too late now. Ball's rolling down the hill. We can't stop it. It's going to happen. We had a client in Louisville, Kentucky, or almost had a client. And we were trying to sell them some electrical safety training. Good company, but we didn't get it done. We didn't get it sold to them. This was several years ago because their maintenance people had been there a long time. And they convinced the safety manager and the company management that they just didn't need this training because they were good. They knew how to stay out of it. You ever heard that term before? I know how to stay out of it. Or I've been zapped a lot and I'm not dead yet. Well, guess who got killed? Their top electrical guy. The guy that had been there longer than everybody else. The guy that screamed the loudest that they didn't need this training. And here's how he got killed. You tell me what 30 years experience would have done to prevent this. He was out in the plant, hot, sweaty day, and the machine broke down, and they were in a hurry to get it fixed. Does that sound familiar at all? Happens all the time, doesn't it? So he's rushing out to fix it. The problem with the machine was something he recognized. And most maintenance people can do that, right? Such and such happened to this machine over here. You know right off what the problem is. So he went right to the cabinet, multi-door control panel, mounted on the floor, and it was over his head, right? And he knew that these 2 fuses needed replaced. He opened the cabinet, used insulated fuse pullers, bless his heart, pulled the fuse out and dropped it. You ever drop anything? He dropped the fuse. He's still alive, nobody hurt yet. He had to bend over and pick it up. He braced himself on the control panel door, bent over to pick the fuse up inside the cabinet. It fell on the floor inside the cabinet. The back of his hand lightly touched a 14-gauge wire, which is a small wire, 120 volts. That's all it was. Died instantly. Died instantly. Now, if you'd asked this guy before, he would probably have said something like, I've been zapped a lot. Well, I got zapped a lot when I was an electrical person in maintenance. And you know why I didn't get killed? It's not because I'm not conductive. Fat's a pretty good, not a very good insulator. It was because circumstances weren't right that day to kill me. But they got right that day for him. They were right that day because he was hot and sweaty. He's in a hurry. No gloves on. He braced himself on the panel door. When he reached in, his hand touched a 120-volt wire. The circuit path was through his heart. And he died instantly, couldn't be revived. Okay? So that's the kind of thing. His circumstances were right that day. All he needed was a pair of rubber gloves. Seems kind of a waste not to have that training and not to have that. And that company's a really good customer today. But it's a culture change. You'll fight it. We've seen it everywhere we've done this. Okay? Everywhere we've done this. It's time consuming. It's got to be done throughout the facility. Got a couple tips for you. Involve your key people with 70E. Involve your key people. Excuse me. You got a maintenance department with 10 people in it that are all considered qualified to do electrical work. I've been doing maintenance training for a long time. If you got 10 people in the maintenance department, there's a good chance that 1 or 2 of them aren't as qualified as you think they ought to be. 1 or 2 of them may not be very qualified. 1 or 2 of them maybe ought to be sweeping the maintenance floor or something. Okay? When it comes to electrical work, there's a chance they shouldn't be doing it. But out of a group of 10, there's going to be about 6 of them that are good. 6 of them that do most of the work, right? 6 of them that can fix the equipment and not kill anybody. Can't hardly ask for much more than that from us in maintenance. But then in that same group of 10, there's going to be 1 or 2 that are fantastic. This could be a basketball team or a group of engineers or anything else, but it's just the way the statistics lay out. There's going to be 1 or 2 that are fantastic. And everybody else looks up to them. I don't know what it is in the maintenance department, but whoever the best electrician is gets a lot of respect. And everybody else wants to be that person or at least know what that person knows. So that's why I say involve your key people. Figure out who those 2 are. Figure out who that is in your maintenance group or in your group of whoever they are. And make sure they're on board. Because if they hate this 70E stuff, it ain't going to happen. Because if the new younger people look at the older people not doing it, well, I ain't going to do it because Bubba's not doing it, and they'll make fun of me in the break room. Maintenance group, we're kind of like a street gang inside your factory there. We kind of got, there's a lot of street credibility. There's a lot of, peer pressure and stuff. You know how it goes. So you got to make sure that the top people we all respect are on board. So get them involved.